Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, the place where leadership meets real life. Here is where we talk about leading with intention, living with clarity, and getting better results for the people we serve every single day. If you're ready to grow, you're in the right place. Right now, on today's episode, who are the impactful leaders and where are they? Well, guess what? They're right here with me because it's going to be you. Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live with purpose. And as I always promise, no fluff, no empty motivation, but just practical, real life, actionable tools that you can use right now, today. And my desire is for you to learn how to lead with impact, grow and develop the next generation of leaders, and thrive in whatever you do. This whole episode is going to be about challenging you in different ways. I also want to break down the difference between what impactful leadership is and what's merely managing. And I'm going to say this. I want you to completely reject any concept or idea of being like another leader. It's great if you admire people that have led you well previously and you learn things from them. That's great. But if you follow their style, you will become their style. And what I want to make sure is that you stop following other people's playbooks. I want you to embrace your ideas and be the truly impactful leader you are meant to be. And that means challenging you to be different and challenging you to dig deep in what would you want from someone that you worked for, because that's ultimately who we all need to become. Your goal should be to become a catalyst. That people will come into your space, they'll grow fast, they'll sharpen, and they'll elevate, and then what? Next, they move into their own chapter. Listen, if you're doing the job, you're not a leader. You're a manager, and that's okay, but don't confuse the two. Leadership is a big word, and honestly, it should scare you in a way, because it's not something we just call everybody. But I've noticed that we start to use this word a lot more than we should. We sort of call everybody this. What I want to do in this episode is give you 10 core beliefs of the most impactful leaders that I've worked with and now are currently working out there leading our most successful businesses, sports teams, and industries in general. I want to go through these to help you develop a stronger and more impactful leadership style. I want you to hear these, but make them your own. Don't just follow them verbatim, but take the principles themselves and put them to work for you. Okay, number one, I want you to put your people's development over personal advancement. Most managers protect their role. Elite leaders will multiply themselves through others. They don't ask, are we hitting the numbers? They ask, who is becoming stronger on our team because of me? Reality check. If your team isn't growing, neither are you. You know, somebody asked me, what do I think is the biggest roadblock that's keeping people from becoming truly impactful leaders? And I said that they are just so caught up in their internal promotion, making more money, getting their deliverables done on time, and the optics that honestly it consumes about 80% of managers and leaders out there. They just don't care about the people beneath them. It's such a huge mistake because they fail to realize that truly caring about the growth and development of their subordinates is what is going to ultimately carry their career. If your team isn't growing, neither are you. So get deeply entrenched into your people's growth and development. Number two, I want you to take complete ownership and have zero victim mentality. This is a big thing that most people don't do. They own a little, and they also victimize themselves a little bit. Elite leaders don't blame. They don't blame the company they work for. They don't blame economic situations, and they don't blame corporate decisions. They operate from, hey, it's on me to respond better, lead better, and think better. That mindset creates clarity, speed, and trust. To bring this to life for you, I remember we had this huge change in commission structure for all our managers, and there was this two mindsets happening amongst my peers when this was announced. The first was a more fixed mindset of, oh man, I'm not working here to take a pay cut, and now I'm working harder for nothing, so on, right? The growth mindset, the second group, was few and far between amongst all of us. But they saw if they delivered more over budget, they got a bigger bonus that compensated what they would have made from before, and then ultimately paid them more and more. So it was a huge win if they would focus on growing their business. So we have a conference call, and I want to discuss techniques of how we could work smarter to deliver our goals. and I could not believe all the dissent and negativity. And I kept trying to get everybody focused on what we could do to actually win with this new structure. But not everyone wants to be led forward. Some want validation, agreement, or a place to vent. Okay, but elite leaders, they want direction, solutions, and growth. I was speaking to the second group in a room dominated by the first one with a fixed mindset. What I want you to remember is taking radical ownership means control what we can control and don't fall into a victim mentality. All right, number 3, design your leadership with complete clarity. Yeah, most teams are drowning in noise. Impactful leaders cut through it with clear expectations, defined wins, and simple priorities. They turn chaos into here's what matters and here's how we're going to win the week. People don't burn out from work, they burn out from the confusion. So let me challenge you this way. When you speak to your team, do you speak to simple points that make things clear and easy to understand? Because I will tell you, a lot of leaders out there, a lot of managers will talk in complex terms because they're trying to sound important. They're trying to sound knowledgeable, and they're not realizing that they're making it harder for their people to be successful to begin with. It's just adding a bunch of noise and making things more difficult. They want to hear themselves sound smart. So ask yourself and make sure, am I delivering the information and our goals in a way that's built around clarity? Okay, number 4, I want you to focus on consistency over intensity. Listen, anybody can lead well on a good day, but elite leaders are steady, predictable, and grounded. And that builds psychological safety and ultimately stronger performance. For example, I've watched so many young men and women walk through the door with all this enthusiasm and even a hint of arrogance, thinking they're going to do something amazing with their new position. Now, while I love the enthusiasm, I have watched them fall on the road, sword over and over in attempts to prove themselves in one shot. I remember one guy coming through the door and he talked so much about himself, he didn't even really ever talk about the job and the actual performance of his team. There are these leaders amongst us that have been going strong year after year, 15, 20, 30 years, crushing results, and you never hear their name. We had an optician retire in our company that was crushing it at one location for 20 years. I think she worked for us for almost 30, but she retired younger than average because she put the work in. She didn't seek the spotlight. She just kept doing her job, putting money away, and now she's out there living her best life. Consistency will always beat short bursts of intensity. Number 5, I want you to develop private advocacy and yet public accountability. This one separates the real ones. Impactful leaders will defend their people when they're not in the room, and they will coach them directly. They never throw people under the bus and then work to protect their image over integrity. And that's really how trust becomes unbreakable. You want your people to be able to trust you. And you've also got to surround yourself with people that you can trust. I know my biggest mistakes have been trusting too soon without verifying, taking the time to really see who they were. And it's really unfortunate, but people will attempt to hurt you along the way. It's really hard to understand. You're going out of your way to help them, but it won't be reciprocated. So I want you to observe carefully, like I said, the people around you, and I want you to be able to be the person also that stands up for the goodness of your team and your peers. If somebody else speaks disparagingly of you, that's on them. But don't fall into that cycle. Don't fall into that game. Trust but verify, but make sure your people know they can trust you. All right, number 6, I want you to create energy and not just direction alone. Managers give tasks, that's great, but impactful leaders create emotional momentum. They bring belief, they bring urgency, and most of all, they bring purpose. People don't follow titles, they follow good energy. So when you get people emotionally connected to their work and the goals within it, you create a magic that is unstoppable. That emotional connection is the ultimate driver. And simply, all you have to do is, number 1, get them connected by showing them how they make a difference to the team and the job itself. Number 2, how they connect to the end result. And number 3, give them the ownership in future decisions and projects. All right, number 7, I want you to always tell the truth. Hey, if you want to separate yourself from the pack, this is it, because this is rarely happening. People are always hyperbolizing and exaggerating things and never really telling people what's going on. So no fluff, no corporate theater. Impactful leaders say, here's what's not working, here's what is working, and here's where we need to grow. Truth builds credibility, but sugarcoating things just destroys it. I want you to say the truth. I mean, you don't round up your sales numbers. You don't hyperbolize things about your success that aren't quite what you make it sound. Believe me, there is a huge disconnect about what leaders say about their team and what their teams actually believe about their leaders. Speak truthfully at all times and build a reputation known for it. All right, number 8, I want you to build future leaders, not dependent workers. If everything flows through you, you're not leading, you're bottlenecking. Impactful leaders delegate ownership, they coach decision-making, and they let people struggle and grow. That's a big one there. A lot of people don't want the struggle part. They don't want to wait for it. They just want the results. But you've got to be able to let them struggle so they learn and grow. Like Gary Vee says, losing is the lesson. Your goal should be, my team should not need me for everything. Here's what I want you to know. Impactful leaders don't wait for people to figure it out. They create the conditions for action. That starts with crystal clear direction so there's no hesitation about what to do next. Then they lower the barrier by breaking things into simple first steps. Give people permission to move without constant approval and create an environment where it's safe to try, to fail, and most of all, learn. Most importantly, I want you to model decisiveness and reinforce initiative, not just outcomes. Because when people feel clear, trusted, and supported, they don't stall. Instead, they'll step up. All right, number 9, develop emotional control, which will equal leadership power. Pressure reveals the truth in all of us, but elite leaders, impactful leaders, they don't react, they respond. They don't escalate, they stabilize. In chaos, they become the calmest person in the room. And that's where authority comes from. You know, for example, I heard a story of an associate in my industry, optical, where she was telling me a story about how she had worked really hard to help this customer save money on her glasses, and she worked to create a great experience for her. Well, I guess the customer went home, and either their spouse or somebody said, oh my God, that's way too expensive. You need to go back in there and tell them, why did they cheat you? So this customer comes in the next day and starts yelling at the associate, you cheated me. This is way too much money. I want my money back. And while the whole thing was going on, the manager stood in the corner, hearing the whole thing, and didn't even budge. Didn't even come in to support her associate. So the associate handled the whole thing herself, calmly and smoothly, because she's a natural leader. She calmed the customer down, simply gave her a refund. But she was left all alone to handle it with zero support. Where was that leader, right? That's just a manager who wasn't even managing. But the fact was, the associate demonstrated emotional control even better than the manager. All right, number 10, I want you to lead beyond the role, okay? Maybe that sounds a little corporate, but what I mean is managers lead within the system, but impactful leaders will lead beyond it. They think legacy over position, impact over optics, and people over process. They understand my influence is bigger than this building. This is the shift I want you to embrace today, right now. A regular manager is just going to ask, hey, how do I succeed here? But a truly impactful leader will say, who do I need to become so others succeed because of me? All right, so let's get to it. This is your call to action for the episode. I don't want you to try to improve everything here. I want you to pick one behavior and raise your standard immediately. So step 1, choose your core leadership value. Ask yourself, where am I currently average, but I'm capable of being elite? Pick one. Maybe it's developing your people consistently. Maybe it's creating clarity for your team, or telling the truth more directly, controlling your emotions under pressure, or following up on commitments. No overthinking. You already know the answer. But just pick one and make that your focus. Now, step 2, make it visible, starting today. Impactful leadership is observable. So within the next 24 hours, take one clear action. Schedule a real developmental conversation with a team member, or define and communicate this week's win to your team. Give honest and constructive feedback that you've been avoiding to give to somebody. Publicly recognize someone's growth on your team, not just results, and then step into a tough moment calmly instead of merely reacting. Listen, if no one can see it, it doesn't count. All right, step 3, I want you to raise your personal standard. This is a non-negotiable. Say to yourself, this is now who I am as a leader, not, I'll try, or when I have time, or I'll journal over it, or when things calm down. They never calm down. But this is my standard every day. And then step 4, this is the follow-through. This is where 90% of other leaders are going to fail. So this will immediately put you into elite category. In 7 days, ask yourself, did I stay consistent? Did my team feel the difference, and did I actually elevate, or was it just my intention? Then either double down or adjust and recommit? And here are some final reflection questions I want you to ask yourself as we close out this episode. Who on my team is clearly better because of my leadership? That's a good question to really think about. I would think about it every week. I would think about it every day. Next, where am I protecting myself instead of developing others? Or do people feel stronger after interacting with me, or maybe smaller or confused? Am I creating clarity or am I adding noise? And if I left tomorrow, would leadership collapse or would it continue? Here's what I want you to hear from me today. Do not walk away from this episode inspired. I want you to walk away decided. Because impactful leadership isn't built in big moments. It's built in the standards you choose to live by every single day. So pick one, act on it today, and start becoming the leader your people actually need. Start becoming someone different in your industry. Start building a reputation for growth and development and clarity that it shocks your peers. Remember, impactful leadership isn't loud. It's not performative. It's definitely not about being liked. It's about building people, telling the truth, showing up consistently, and leaving something behind in others. All right, so that is today's episode, and if it made a positive impact on you, I would truly appreciate a rating and review on whatever platform you hear me on, and please don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next on the Leading Life Podcast. And this isn't where we just talk about leadership, we really live it together. I'm Andy Zook. Remember, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, keep becoming who you were meant to be. Most importantly, go out today and be the hero in somebody's story. All right, have an amazing day, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.